on England and Pister. That's Pister's first death, by the way, to Ryan B. Welcome to USL Live and to the Season 23 Week 6 preview show. I'm your host, Romulocks, and this is a weekly podcast where we revisit the results from the previous week, discuss the upcoming matches, and try and predict the winners and how that will impact the rest of the season. Joining me to discuss all that and more, I am honored to welcome into the broadcast booth my co-host for this evening. First up, we have Mecca.
Howdy.
Yosh.
Ni hao.
And Splittah.
Let's get it.
For more information on the Unified Skirmish League, including schedule, rosters, or how you can be a part of this league, we ask that you please visit uslzone.com. First up, let's jump into our Week 5 games, kind of recap those. First up, we had Anything to Win defeats Pay Pigs 35-18. Your MVP in that game was Colossal. Mecca, take it away.
Yeah, I thought it was a good game. I thought it was a lot closer than some people expected it to be, which I predicted it would be. I think we just outzoned them, I'll say. I think there's a mailbag question later about AT play, and I think Eric outplayed Typhoon, and I think that's probably the major reason we won. We just had better vision. And we were very patient on our plays, camped a little bit even, I would say. And I think that kind of played into our hands because once we got the lead, it forced them to move around the map. And so once we were kind of holding that south choke, which is hard to push, they had to start going over top and around our base, and it kind of just played into our hand. And I think that's why we won. And shout out to Shasta for medding. And I'm not going to say he's iron, but he had a pretty good game for somebody who usually plays Marine.
Yeah, I think Shasta came in and filled in pretty well medding. We didn't know if Mercy was going to show up. It was Iron's birthday. So, he did a pretty good job. Fake Pay Pigs, though, they came out more aggressive than I thought they were going to be, which is good to see. Yeah, it was a good match. The only lame thing about it is they went sevens. That stuff's got to stop, man. Like, if you have more than 8 people, then that should be the default.
Split?
Yeah, we didn't have 8 people. We had 7 people. We played everybody that was there. We went into the match just honestly not even thinking that we were going to go camp. As we said it even beforehand that we're not camping this weekend, that we're just going to play it out like a regular scrim, which I understood, and I actually had more fun doing that. Granted, this match itself was not really that much fun to play. It was a lot of camping. Sav really obviously held that south choke area by the race, which was really rough to get through. But overall, it was a great SB by them. It was definitely tight. And I kind of expect the same if we actually get to the playoffs and face them as well.
Yeah, I predicted 34-17, so I got really close, and it's almost exactly the way I expected the game to go. A little bit slow at first, then over time, ATW just wears any team down. Even the best of teams are going to have a tough struggle. Shout out to Iso, though, 10-1. What an incredible game for him. His streams were just on point. He wasn't like exceptional, I didn't think, at anything. He was just constantly getting hits, and those hits added up. And he got the last shot on a lot of guys. I want to shout out to Sav. Shasta was healing as well as this game, but Sav was exceptional as medic in this game. We all know that he can play that class really well, but for this week was like it just showed off what he really is capable of. And watch the game back and see some of the plays he has. They're really impressive. Mecca kind of called it out at one point, or not Mecca. I'm forgetting my co-host that pointed it out. It was Typhoon, Mountain, and Split combined were 2-12 in the middle of the game. And it's just, you're going to have more production from one of those guys, for sure. No offense, Split. I wonder how much not having Kevin really did influence the outcome of this game, because he seems to be a calming factor. And something we'll get to a little bit later that I go ahead and mention now is that Kaga brought up that for his team, there's a lot of guys that can go really really do really well or not do so well. Kind of just depends on the day. But you need those guys that are just going to be constant for the team. And for that team, it's Legacy. For this team, I think it's Kevin. I think Kevin really comes in and plays every single game at a very mid to high level, every single game. And his absence was really noted. One last point I would make would be that Mountain had one play that was just devastating in terms of momentum, which is that missed law. He thought he had a law in the inventory, and I guess he didn't have it. That if he had gotten that double kill on that rock, it would have. I think the score would have been tied 10-10, which puts you guys in a much better position that you want to be to hold ATW rather than it ended up with them still having I think a 2-kill lead or something like that. So that was a pretty big moment for the game that translated into kind of what would happen later. You really need to get those kills where you can get them. So let's move on to a next game, which is Warhawks defeats Nexus 80-11. Your MVP in that game was Rio.
Yeah, not much to say about this. I was kind of disappointed in Nexus and the way you guys played. I think that you had some good positioning sometimes, and then you just gave it up to be angled out in the open, and that was
Indeed.
really confusing. You'll hear it on the audio recording. I think it was Yosh and I, and we were mentioning that. It just didn't make really sense to give up good positioning to, I don't know. Like there's one that you guys you had really good holds on southeast, and then you end up going to like top of ridge, that building above ridge, and you're just kind of all 8 in the open, and they surround you. Yeah, just some unfortunate positioning, and then some people, and like I know I speed with you guys in the week earlier in the week, and I was telling Bowen about it, but you guys are plagued with half the people pushing, half the people falling, and I think you really saw that on Sunday. You saw some people being super aggressive, dying right away, some people being in the back, dying right away, and it just didn't work. So I don't know if it's a chemistry issue or what, but it'd be nice to get that cleaned up because Urban Decay Kaiser Pass is not an easy map to play on. And you can get stat petted really easy on Kaiser Pass if you're not careful. So hopefully you guys can slow it down and keep it tight there. And shout out to Ernie for going Assault Trooper and not dying 11-0.
Yeah, this match looked weird from Nexus. Like you gave up good position to get in the worst position and get surrounded and killed. Like I didn't know what y'all were trying to accomplish a lot of times, and it looked like this was the first time y'all played on this map. So, um, we're moving on to Kaiser's Pass. You know, uh, so we'll see what y'all guys can do on that map. But I have a mailbag question about Nexus. So
Same.
Ooh.
Go ahead.
I missed this match, but I'll definitely do a shout out to Rio for getting MVP on this one and the next match we're going to be discussing soon.
Okay. We did practice on Apollo's map. It just didn't translate. I think that there were a couple of games that we practiced this week that we started off rough, and then by the end of it, we turned it around. It was tough to turn it around on Warhawks, that's for sure. We were getting dominated. I will note that I think Mecca, you might be talking about one of the same battles I am. There was a battle that we had that was just outside of the baselines where we had a right side and a left side, and the left side ended up fighting and going to the left instead of pushing with us on the right. And Fausto and Bowen were both pretty heated about that because we clearly had that battle, if not won, really close to one, and we just gave it up. And I agree. I've said this now for 3 weeks. We have some guys that are looking to push and some guys that are looking to fall, and there's just not a rhythm between the teams. And I don't know what needs to change, to be quite honest. I may be too close to it at this point. I just try to med the best I can. Once again, this is another week where I caught too many laws. But at the same time, like I'm trying to heal everybody because everybody is taking shots, and it was just
Yeah,
it was
you
rough.
did have the highest heal points. I noticed too.
It was a rough game, is what I'll say, and I think that we have some mailbag questions, so I don't want to give it away too far on this, but I think there are some issues, and I am definitely open to thoughts, and I know Fausto and Bowen both are too. Let's move on to Crap Shooters defeated Knock Your Punk Ass Down 88-20. Your MVP was Bax.
Yeah, I think only one thing came out of this, and we'll pop it in the announcements afterwards. It was pretty run of the mill. Surprising that Septic didn't play. MTR going 7-12 was nice. Still think he should med and Thiz should LMG. That dude's still missing heals left and right. But shout out to Sabo too, going 29-2, and Pisser going 17-3. Those are some huge numbers to put up.
Yosh.
Sorry. Yeah, I really got nothing more to say other than what Mecca said. He summed it up perfect.
Split.
I'm actually shocked that Sab's score was 29-2. Obviously, I missed this match as well, but wow, that obviously is devastating to see another team have that, like a player put up that type of that amount of kills. That being said, MTR getting 7 kills, 12 deaths, in a score like that's actually amazing. To be quite honest about it, I kind of do wonder how he got the kills with mortars, etc. But either way, he definitely did as much as he could do for his team.
Yeah, I think the Septicemia not playing was a mistake. I think that they were missing the leadership. There were some plays, like particularly them running through the baselines on the other side. Like I don't know what that was, but it wasn't a good move. And they were hiding in weed while the rest of your team gets slaughtered not once but twice. There were just a lot of suspect decisions that I think probably should have been done differently there. I think that Septicemia, for whatever faults you may have with him, I think that he does provide a steady amount of leadership and some calming influence. And he is a good ripper, as I said in the broadcast that you'll see. I think he's a good ripper, and you needed that in this game particularly. This was the one to have it in, actually. I think. I would also give out the shout out to Sabotage and Pister. Sabotage was a monster. Every bullet he fired seemed to be on target, and especially in the last 10 minutes, he just turned it on, and it was kind of glorious to behold. That was an old school Sabotage. My only issue with Sabo is he is so inconsistent. He will have that game, and the next week he'll go 6-8, and I don't understand it. But when he does turn it on like this, Sabo can be one of the best Marines in the league. So yeah, not much more to say about than that. Finally, we have Warhawks defeats Pay Pigs 29-15. Your MVP was Rio, and I just want to go ahead and start out and say this might have been one of the weirder USL games I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, the ending of this game was just pure tomfoolery, malarkey. Even it was just crazy. You had SV on his VPN, like I'm just kidding, lagging in and out. Had to relog a few times. Finally gets spec'd because he just warped around shooting 4 bullets at like the most pivotal time in the match. You had the weird sub that MTR did do correctly. I was looking at the command. For some reason, put GB on the other team and then have it killed him for some reason. Don't know why they would shoot each other. That's just stupid in my opinion. But also, it's kind of weird to see somebody just unspec and you don't look at their name right away. It makes sense. So you had that whole mess. So the score was never accurate, and then just overall, it was kind of a sloppy game from both teams. I don't think either team played particularly well. I just think one team had to win, and it just happened to be Warhawks. I think Rio played well um, on Warhawks, and I think SV played pretty well on Pay Pigs, and then everybody else was kind of just average. And I think those are the only two that stood out. And just unfortunate how the game ended with just so much weird shit going on.
Yeah, like people were getting specced for, weird reasons, like Victim, or I think Ghost Bomber was in the game like 3 different times or something like that. Like it was very, very weird. Um, this is another match that Pay Pigs went 7. And they had 8. So I don't know what's going on there. Um, Rio played outstanding. I mean, we say it week after week, but he's probably one of the best Marines, if not the best Marine in the league right now. Like he is consistent. He's shown up, done his thing. Standout performers for Pay Pigs. I mean, I really can't say the Mountain because he was lagging half the time. So like, hopefully he gets that fixed because they need him. Other than that, I think everybody else had a pretty mediocre game from Pay Pigs. No one really stood out. Uh, yeah. Other than that, Warhawks ended up taking it.
As for why we had 7 versus 8, I came late.
But
Yeah,
you
I
were in the
came late.
arena. You showed up in the
I know,
arena
I know, I know. But
beforehand.
by the time, by no, not
What?
beforehand. It was
No,
actually
you were
right
in the
before the
arena
match.
beforehand before they started.
But that's after they put the lineups in, right? That's after they had to put the sevens, etc., or whatever the case was. This is all happening prior to me arriving in the arena. So when I entered the arena, then it was already too late. At that point, obviously SV was potentially lagging, so we kind of had to decide just to play it out. Obviously, I came in midway during the match, but you're right, it was very sloppy. I mean, it was sloppy on both sides. We just weren't organized, and part of that obviously was just not us having a good rhythm. I felt like, and if you look at it, I mean, obviously both teams were just not really feeling like themselves for the most part. But yeah, we were just not getting good rhythm. Obviously, there was that issue with Ghost Bomber getting subbed or spec'd, whatever the case was, and then switching teams, and then on our screen, him shooting us, and then us obviously killing him, right? And then you have that, and then we have the us being down a guy, and then having the SV issue and him lagging out, or not lagging out, rather getting specced out as well. Yeah, we just couldn't catch a really good rhythm on this match. I mean, it would have been nice to, have a retake on this whole situation, but it is what it is. Rio did play fantastic. Definitely easily the most standout player that I've seen. I called it out from the beginning as soon as I saw him play that he was definitely going to be probably the number one Marine. Is what I kind of predicted. But with that being said, I mean, I really do wish that that we saw each other in like the best light, because I don't think that they played even remotely as good as they play on average. Actually, in this case, yeah, it was low scoring, and it was kind of weird considering that I won't say that we were even trying to camp or anything. It just, again, a lot of issues that kind of prevented us from moving. But with all that being said, yeah, overall, I do hope to see this team in the playoffs, whether it's the first or in the finals.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add to what you guys said, although I will say that if the Warhawks looked sloppy, it was purely because of Pigs being sloppy. Like, I wouldn't know what the fuck to do with that either. There was just some wild, wild choices. You guys, I think the score was within 8 kills when you guys made those subs. And I'm sitting there on the broadcast going, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why would you make subs and be that far away from dropship? I didn't understand that at all. There, yeah, there were just a lot of choices. Once again, I think Kevin missing, you lost your stability with that. The lag issues were awful. I feel bad for SV because it wasn't anything he was doing. Actually, I thought he was playing better in this game than he was in the first one. Um, but Rio absolutely did dominate. I agree with what everybody else is saying. I do think that probably right now he is one of, if not the best Marine in the league, which is, we'll get to a question on that later as well. You know, I agree, and Mecca can vouch for me on this. I said I don't know that we can take anything away from that game. I don't know that it says anything about Pay Pigs. I don't know that it says anything really about Warhawks. It was just a clusterfuck of a game that nobody had a really amazing showing except for Legacy, and maybe Kaga did pretty well too. But I would. There's no like lessons to be learned from Pay Pigs. Like, don't lag. I don't know what you get out of that. So yeah, moving on to the next day, and I know the next game will be better if you guys get to face them again. Let's
Wait,
go.
I have some
Yeah, go
breaking
ahead.
news before we move on. And I've just had it confirmed. Apparently, Warhawks were the people who asked for sevens in this game.
Really?
Split was there 1 minute before the match and asked to go eights, and the gift said
Interesting.
no, according to the ref and an opposing captain. So that's
Interesting.
I
Interesting.
wouldn't know.
look up
Honestly, I
information.
wouldn't even know. I was not even part of that
Those
conversation.
Yeah,
So
those dirty snakes. Um,
I know
yeah.
that we didn't have it till I arrived, but it is what it is. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, somebody else made the point, and I think it was lost on me yesterday because I was just kind of like, why are we playing so many sevens games? But anyway, it was like, it's the middle of the summer. People are on vacation. There are a lot of people on vacation right now, and I get that. I don't want to, I don't want to rag on anybody too hard, but at the same time, you got 14 people on the roster. It'd be nice to show 8. Um, anyway, let's move on. Actually, yeah, we got week 6 games coming about. This will be on Kaiser Pass as the map. 8:45 game will be anything to win versus knock your punk ass down. I don't know if there's a lot to say about what's going to happen here, but if anybody has anything, take it away.
I hope Septic plays to keep it um, smaller. I guess I would say I think it's going to be a blowout either way, but I think you saw without Septic playing on Sunday that it was just kind of a mess. And then Trax got promoted to co-captain and said he didn't want to play with Septicemi anymore. So I don't know if there's some inner squad drama there that's popping up late season or what, but hopefully they don't completely fall apart and can still finish out the season strong and have a good showing. And hopefully they show eights, because I know they've showed seven quite a few times. They showed seven versus us the first fucking game of the season. So hopefully they can show eights as well, and we can have a nice 8 versus 8.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they show 8, and then the match will play out.
I actually SB'd a little bit with NYPD. Septic has calmed down a lot. I didn't mind his leading at all. Trax, on the other hand, I don't know where he was. Septic had to chide Trax multiple times because he was so far out. So I don't know if that's the crux of the issue or if it's just more heated when I'm not there. But yeah, I thought Septicemia's leading was solid. I think the biggest issue with Septic is that he's trolling on the class choices like over and over again. I just don't understand the choices you're making. It would be nice if Septic would be the most consistent motherfucker on that team, and then let the rest of his team figure it out while he's doing the right things. And I think that you would see faster development from guys like Yami, Thiz, Posty if they had a model you know to fashion their game after. I think that would be better for them in terms of improvement to be speedier. But I do think it's going to be kind of a bloodbath. I expect ATW to walk away with the win here. Let's go to the next game, which may be sort of the same. Nexus versus Pay Pigs.
Yeah, I mean, I think this one's going to be closer than anything to win versus NYPD, but I think Paypigs wins this too. Kaiser Pass is just a really tough map when you're on the other side of the talent pool, when you have a little bit less talent on your team. So unless you guys completely turn it around and start playing as a team and cohesively, I think that this could get out of hand as well. I'm not sure if you guys have played each other already. Looking through that now, I don't know what the score was or anything. Have you guys 81-36 first time on EC? So you guys did play well the first game. So hopefully you can sort of replicate that. Hopefully you can just get everybody on the same page. That's what I want to see. I think Mosh Ripper is going to be good on this map. I think Ripper is super good on this map, especially if you're playing, a lot south and in the buildings. So that would be nice to see. And hopefully you get a SK in their LMG. Hopefully 8 versus 8s. And I think it'll be probably 40 to 50 point win by Pay Pigs. But I think you guys can, at least show out and have some sort of respectable performance in the first half of this game.
So this match has the potential to get really nasty really fast. If Nexus doesn't figure out what they're doing and what kind of team they want to be, then I see Paypigs running away with this match, hands down. For Nexus, I think Mosh has to be a bigger factor in these games. I think he needs to set himself up in right positions and probably start playing heavy Ripper. I think he played past the Ripper this last time. And if you're going to play past the Ripper, then your team needs to be pushing. Nexus should not be trying to push on Paypigs. If anything, you need to take a page out of their book and camp it out. Do some sneaky stuff, hide on some corners or something, because y'all look rough right now.
Yeah, I don't think this one's going to be that close at all. I think it's probably going to be within a 40 or 50 kill margin at least. And a few reasons why. It seems like Nexus is not getting like they seemed better before, a little better before than they do now. I don't know why. What's happened? I have no clue. But definitely there's been some weaknesses that's been getting exposed on their side, which I feel like they were at one point kind of like getting again better, but now again they it seems like they took a step backwards. I have no clue on how that happened, but with that being said, this is their time to shine. If there was a time to kind of try to turn the season around, it is this moment. Otherwise, it's pretty much over. I do think that there's some players that definitely have and still do have a lot of potential. Obviously, Rom being one of them, Bowen, etc. But really, it's kind of everybody coming together and kind of figuring out what works, what doesn't work. At this point, is what I'm trying to look for. Um, so like if certain things aren't working, switching it up, right, would be the kind of the key things here at this point of the season. With that being said, yeah, again, I think it's going to be within a 40 to 50 kill margin for pay picks.
Yeah, I'll let your guys' comments stand and echo those sentiments a lot. I do think there'll be some things that change this week. I also think we have our kind of our own internal benchmarks for what we want to see change and how we want to grow. And as long as we hit those, I'll be happy. But I'll be honest, we haven't hit those in 2 or 3 weeks in terms of what I wanted to see. I think we do need big performances from Jake. I agree with your points on Mosh. That we have veterans on our roster that need to play like veterans. And yeah, well, that's what we need, and we'll see if they can show up on Sunday, and I'll leave it at that. Next up we have, and by the way, guys, call it out if you think this is a match of the week because I'm honestly not sure what the match of the week is this week. It's kind of it's kind of a rough week to project that for. The next game, which I kind of have marked tentatively as match of the week, is Crap Shooters versus Anything to Win.
Yeah, I think this is going to be co-match of the week. I think this game and Crap Shooters and Warhawks is going to be pretty similar. I think we win this game. I think Crap Shooters will be missing some key players, which we'll find out about later. But I think Anything to Win is going to run away with this, just because one, I mean the talent's obviously there too, but the meds are going to be very exposed on this map. If you're not playing south every time and in the buildings, the meds are kind of in the open, and there's just so many different flank lanes that I think the better med group is always going to win out, and I think that Anything to Win has the better med group. And I think that the Marine, there's a lot of kill lanes here too, a lot of long lanes, between the buildings, on top of the buildings, and a lot of room for AT to operate as well. So I think Eric will probably be playing AT on this, so I think Anything to Win runs away with this.
Yeah, this is a rough week for Crap Shooters. They're away on both matches to us and Warhawks. That's a rough schedule. And they play back to back. So, I mean, it's Kaiser's Pass. This map is a little rough. I've been told that the vision has been fixed on it. So, if that's true, then it could be a lot more interesting. But, um, good luck, Pister.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a rough one, definitely, for Crap Shooters. Obviously, being away, the fact that Sav on the other side leading is going to be really rough for them to even just deal with by itself. That being said, I mean, if Pister tries to camp and plays it kind of smart, he could keep it within a 20 kill margin, which, in my opinion, would be a pretty big dub for them if they can do that. So it really kind of depends on his style. I do hope that if he does kind of like goes down by a bit, that he doesn't go straight, push mode and kind of like let them get a huge lead on him. That is what I'm kind of hoping he does not do, and try to kind of keep it closer in terms of the kill score was.
I think the thing that's frustrating about Crap Shooters to me is that there's a lot of talent on that roster. I mean, if you just look at like England, Hop, Ninja, Pandy, Pister, Sabotage, like those guys can all lay down a lot of kills. And especially in combination, they've got good streams. I think they've got a lot in the tank. It's just they haven't lived up to the potential. The problem that they have, I think, has always been the same as the whole season is medic reliability. First of all, you don't even have the same consistent medics week to week, which is a big problem. But the medics you do have are not the caliber that you're going to need to take on Warhawks or Anything to Win. Really, I just don't see it. And so while your Marines might play an outstanding game, Sabotage could just play lights out again this week. I don't think it matters if your meds don't stay alive. That said, if Chica and Negi or Flash, if they step up and stay alive, if they're able to stay alive for this team, both of these games could be fantastic. They really could be. It just really depends on the medics that show up and whether or not the Marines are moving together. I think one of your big things you need to look out for is people like Pister getting caught out on wide flanks by themselves. I think ATW will be looking for that kind of stuff, and if you allow that to happen, that's gonna lead to getting rolled up because I don't think Crap Shooters are anywhere near ATW or Warhawk's ability in terms of falling safely to the drop ship. It's just that you're just gonna get mowed at that point. So I'm looking forward to seeing the weekend, though. Let's go ahead and anybody have any additional comments on the Warhawks game, or basically the same gist?
I think
I was-
momentum's going to be key. If Crapshooters plays well versus us, then they're going to carry that same momentum into the Warhawks game. But if they get absolutely blown out by us, then they're going to get blown out by Warhawks. So I think they need to start the first game strong versus us and carry that momentum forward.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I do.
I mean, I think Sabotage is a good player, but you're not ever going to see Sabotage go, 29-2. Probably not even like 15 versus Warhawks or anything to win. It's just two completely different games.
Yeah. I think if he could put up 13, 14, and 6 or something like that, like if he was capable of something like that, that he could be the catalyst that starts his team off. I think they have to realize they have to take the game a lot slower than they did against NYPD. And if Sabo can come up with a few key clutch kills, those first kills in battles are going to be so big on both of these games. And if they can pick up just a couple of them, that an early lead would be really big for crapshooters in both games.
Yeah, I think this would be kind of closer to being the match of the week than anything to win. The reason being, I mean, it really depends on Warhawks, I guess, because if they kind of like don't practice this week, and kind of go into this weekend kind of similar to what they did this last weekend, it's potentially going to be close for them as well. I could see that happening. But with that being said, yeah, more than likely it's still going to be within a 20 kill or even 30 kill margin for Warhawks and Crapshooters. For Warhawks' favor.
Yeah, nothing much more to say about that. Everybody ready? Let's go to the
Yep.
mailbag. Let's start off with Mountain's question, which he asked publicly, so I'm going to out him for it. The general gist of the question, I think, was this: utilizing the AT class when you get a lot of vision with the AT class and the ability to escape conflict. If you post 3 to 4 guys in the south and 3 to 4 guys in the mid, you can essentially keep vision across the entire map. Now add into that all 8 positions are stacked with the best players in the league, i.e., Warhawks or anything to win. What can a mid-tier squad do to beat that?
I mean, I think it's pretty easy what you do to beat it. Like, how you go about that. If you know everyone's spread out like they are, right? Then take your battles very selectively. Take them very slow. And then eventually they're going to get antsy or, just hide in an ambush and then push as one group like we've seen people do. Warhawks do this very well.
Yeah.
If you notice, they keep their groups so close together that that's how they beat us. I mean, we were trying to fight, 4 or 5 on 3 like we would normally do, try and fall, and then the other team would come behind. But they were so good at closing us in and killing a couple guys to where it would make an uneven fight. So keep your groups closer together. If you're going to see a team spreading out, keep your groups closer together, that's when aggression comes into play.
Yeah, a few notes.
Uh,
Playing eights is always easier, and then also again talking about Warhawks. If you say you're playing anything to win, you see Eric way up north as AT, just push the other way. You're gonna have an 8-on-7. Yeah, they might have vision on you in a choke, but if you overload that choke, there's nothing they can do because they're going to be down a man. So I think you just have to take advantage of you have to basically take what the other team's giving you when it comes to AT. So if you're giving vision, but you can take position.
I honestly think that for newer squads and lower tier squads, the AT is a problem for a few reasons, and the major reason I feel like is the problem is that there's like a skill gap where like a lot of newer players or mid tier, lower tier skilled players, they can't fit that criteria to be a good AT. It'll take them too long, and then for most them just getting good at marine or medic is more key for their team for even their team to just to succeed. So kind of like having AT for a lot of these newer or lower tier squads, it's honestly it is an unfair advantage. I definitely been seeing that before. Specifically, I would also say that AT when it comes to soft playing it, specifically soft playing it, It's not even remotely close, right? I've said it that also multiple times to everybody. When Saw plays AT, it's not even remotely close to anybody else playing AT. It's very similar to like a really good sniper, versus you playing sniper or whatever the other case could be. But yeah, there's definitely a huge skill gap for AT, right? And I think that that's a bigger problem than anything else because that kind of like will make weaker squads be even more weaker, right? And I definitely see that as an issue. And I do also think that AT is OP as well.
I think the only issue is that I don't think you can punish a skill gap class, like, because not everybody can play it. So people who can play it should be rewarded. I understand
we
what
did
you
that to
mean
Bax,
by
though.
like. Well, I mean that's not why what's happened to Bax, but or the sniper for that instance. Like, show me one good sniper game from Bax ever in an actual game, and I'll agree with you. But
To be fair though, we nerfed sniper at the same time that Bax joined, or he was on FUP. The first time he had somewhat of a decent core that he actually gets some kills with. But that was the same
yeah,
time that
but
sniper
that's
got
not
nerfed.
because of Bax. So that's just because sniper was OP at its core, and also that just doesn't fit USL gameplay. You could argue the same about AT, but
Exactly. Yeah.
AT is closer to USL gameplay than sniper, when you can just sit in the back and spam 4 chords away from your dropship and get kills, when it was really never in the league before. But like the skill gap classes, I think you still need them. You look at any competitive game and they don't take out skill gap classes, and they balance for competitive. Like, take Overwatch for instance. When they're balancing Overwatch, they balance for the pros. They don't give a shit about bronze. Now, is that the right way to do it? Maybe not, but that's how it is. And I think you look at the top end on how something can be played, and I think that's where you balance it from. So just because a bad squad can't play AT, I don't think you should punish a good squad for being able to play AT.
And I think that's Mountain's point. And he is sending me some messages here, so I just want to reiterate what he's saying. He's saying that really good players, there really isn't an answer because they're just going to rotate to seal the angle off, and then stabilize and come back at you. And I hear his point, and to a certain degree, it seems like the advice everybody's saying is kind of a get good kid kind of response. But I also agree with, I don't know, maybe it was Yosh that said it earlier, that what Warhawks do is they quietly and without notice shift a couple of people down and flood one side, and then they push south like as a 5-man group or something like that. I think that's what the other squads need to focus on doing, is overloading one side as quickly and as quietly as they can, and then hopefully you catch that AT really far north or really far south along with that middle team, and it just takes them too long to get there. That would be the ideal scenario. But I agree, it's very difficult for a mid-tier squad to be able to do that. But at the same time, you got to practice. You got to get as good as these other players. I don't know what to say. You got to keep trying.
Well, another thing is too, like, it's not an AT specific issue. Like, it was Demo last year, it's Ripper this year. Good players are going to be good at classes that take good skill. Like, there's nothing you can do about that. Like, if your best players in the game are playing AT or Demo or Ripper or Sniper, what are you going to do? Just tell them like have to play Marine? Like, I don't understand what the solution is there.
Yeah, something we probably just need to keep discussing as a league. I'm not sure what the answer is. I do like what AT has brought in terms of the scout ability, but at the same time, I see the point that they're making. But that seems to be just a skill gap comment generally, and
Yeah.
maybe it's just enhanced by AT.
Yeah, I just want to throw in one thing about the scout, the original scout, because I've heard a lot of people say that AT is like a scout, right? But the original scout was like a super weak class. It only had a shotgun, and if I remember
Law.
correctly, like
AP.
yeah, the law, and then it was super weak, right?
I think they should lose
It
the
wasn't
law.
really.
I'll say that absolutely. I think the
So
AT
for
should
this
lose the
AT
law.
class, this AT class is like it's OP for a few reasons, right? Namely, obviously the fact that it has the dash, so that means that you can actually be a scout, right? But then you add in the fact that it's probably the most strongest class up close. Then you have a problem, right? And then you add in the laws and the nades, etc. Yeah, it becomes a huge problem. And then you have a great player like Sov that knows how to use that class to such a high level. It becomes even a ceiling that I would say those lower squads would never be able to kind of like get to, in my honest opinion.
So
So
the problem with
sorry, go
AT,
ahead, Josh.
or yeah, everyone's like, "Oh, it's such a good combat class." No, it's not actually. If you miss a couple bullets on AT versus a Marine, you are straight up dead.
You're dead. Yeah, you have
You-
to hit every shot. Or you're
Yeah,
dead.
I think you get 7 in a clip, which is 140 damage. So you miss 2 and you're dead. Now the bullets are pretty big, so it's kind of hard to miss that. Um, the dash makes it really good. I'll give you that. But as far as like a pure combat class goes, if you get into a long, drawn out fight with an AT, you're fucking worthless. And we've seen that on a number of occasions.
Yeah.
The class is really good at flanking and getting vision and then putting in huge burst damage, not a sustained fight. If you want to beat an
And
AT, you need to sustain fight it.
I think the dash nerf made it kind of balanced too. I do still think it's a very strong class. I won't say that it's an OP class, but I think it is still a very strong class. I'm not disagreeing with that, but the dash load I think crippled it. Like anytime I wanted to play AT
It was
after the change, I thought it was useless.
season
but
21.
some people
It was
still
a
like it.
whole lot stronger.
True.
That's for sure.
True. Season 21, it was overpowered and needed to be nerfed, and that's why it was.
I feel like if we put out a poll end of season and asked if AT needed to be nerfed, I honestly think the majority would say it would need to be nerfed. That's my
Then
Yeah,
we're
I
just
mean,
then we're just gonna run Marines again, and it's gonna get
Right.
even worse.
Yeah, I don't know how you nerf it without just essentially eliminating the class at this point. You've nerfed it as far as you really can, to keep it an effective class. But let's move on to the next question. Who are the top 3 USL bullies? Will the league ever be able to grow and thrive with all the elitism and gatekeeping that it currently has? Anybody want to jump in first?
So what does the question mean by
Yeah.
Who are
Hold
the
on.
current top 3 USL bullies?
as far as like what though?
I don't.
Like,
Bully was not defined.
so how do we want to define it then? I mean, it's hard to
Uh,
quantify that.
Let's say
Is he trying to say in
let's
terms
say
of power
argumentative
structure in USL?
abusers, people who are toxic.
So if you want to talk about, because the question's like twofolded, right? It's like who's toxic and then gatekeeping. What do you mean by gatekeeping? Like,
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. Maybe I might be misconstruing it, but I feel like they mean like the power dynamics, like who has
Maybe
the power type of
power in
scenario.
squads?
I don't
Power
know.
in terms of USL, I think. I guess you know what? We should just skip that question just because of this vagueness and stupidity of the
Sure,
fact
I
that
will.
we
I
didn't
will
answer
skip the
Yeah.
question. I
Let's
have no
answer next
idea.
week when it's more clear.
We didn't even know how to
Yeah,
answer it.
flesh it out, mystery questioner.
Yeah, whoever sent that question, PM ROM, and then clarify it a little bit for us.
Everybody knows MP's #1 bully. So
What does Pay Pigs need to do to be able to beat Warhawks in the final week of the season to retain some amount of dignity and not be a complete failure of a squad? What is Pay Pigs' best lineup? Is Victim playing Ripper really the best idea if they can't secure the lead first? Should Havoc play Marine and Victim be second medic? After this disaster of a Sunday for Pay Pigs, should Mountain give up the reins of leadership to either Splittah, Manu, or Kevin and just focus on killing?
people are going at SV lately.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
I think the last
Wow.
game. I think their last game is on CV, so I think Victim should rip, right?
Yeah.
On Crimson Valley, I think Victim should be a ripper. I don't think Victim has ever been an issue in a game that he was in as a ripper. They might not be as effective, but I don't think he lost in the game. So I wouldn't say benching Victim's a good idea. I think Havoc and Manu need a med. Who knows what happened to CC? He kind of just disappeared. And then I think as far as starters go, I think you go Havoc, Manu as med, Victim Ripper, SV Marine, Kevin Marine, Splittah Marine, and hold on, I'm missing some people here. Who am I missing?
Typhoon?
Typhoon and Danny. Yeah, that's what I would go
Yeah.
with. I don't think Ghost Bomber has played bad or lost you games either. I just don't think he wins you as many games as like Danny or Typhoon or Kevin does.
I don't disagree with you at all. That's exactly the roster I would say. I don't think. No, Ghost Bomber isn't a bad player, but I just don't think he's on the level with the rest of these guys right now. And that is the roster. Honestly, I think Splittah needs to be in the roster more for that kind of that second leadership role behind Mountain, so that Mountain doesn't. At least he can focus on other things, so that Manu and Split can call out the other stuff. And I will say that Havoc and Manu both meted their asses off Sunday. Both of them probably neither one of them were the problem, and I agree with what you said earlier, Mecca, too. That Victim is not your problem here. Although maybe you don't want to play with the Ripper, but right now I think you've got other problems that are kind of the crux of the issue.
So Havoc is obviously the standout for this team. Like he made one play in the South where I thought he was dead for sure, and
That
he
was
just danced
amazing.
around
Amazing.
and survived. We were like, "Holy shit, that was awesome to watch." Um, I think y'all need to bring Dave out of retirement. I don't know where he's at. Maybe he's wowing it up or something. But somebody needs to go to Dave and be like, "Yo, you got to come back. We need some help here." And maybe he takes Victim's spot. As far as Ghost Bomber goes, I think he's doing actually well. He's been the highest kills on a couple of their matches. He doesn't look out of place. I think he subs in very well. As soon as he stopped playing AT and trolling around, he looks fine.
Yeah.
I, he looks like a serviceable Marine, which surprises me because all I see him do is play AT and he was just trolling. As far as Victim Ripper goes, I think he's like 20 and 17 on the season or something like that. And at points he's effective, but on certain maps he just does absolutely nothing.
I also don't think Havoc Marine's a bad idea on CV since he likes to be at range. So I mean, if you want to switch Victim to Med, Havoc Marine, I don't have any issue with that.
It's nice
And
to
the
have
thing
that
about GB is
versatility.
I don't think GB is bad, and I don't think he's played any bad games. I just don't think he gives you as much ceiling as somebody as like Typhoon or Danny or somebody or even Havoc Marine.
Completely agreed. And I'm not trying to put him down. I just don't. Yeah, I think some of those guys are just better at killing right now overall. And I do like the versatility that Pay Pigs have to be able to swap Victim and Havoc anytime for complete classes. I Havoc has his moments, but it's a question of which Marine is going to show up. Is it going to be the guy who's engaged in every fight, or is it he's had a couple of off games but as a medic he's been on every game. So.
Yeah, I think this weekend was like a absolute shit show for PayPegs as a whole. Granted that the first match I wouldn't really say was like the reason why we lost to ATW was I think just poor play in terms of us uh, getting past those positions that Sav was setting. But as for the second match, yeah, it was just an absolute shit show all across the board. As for what will happen between us and Warhawks, honestly, I don't know. I do think that on our best nights, we could defeat Warhawks and we could probably defeat anybody. So it all depends on where we are that night, what day. Hopefully the stars are aligned in our favor. With all that being said, I spoke to SV way in the beginning of the season, and we both had the same understanding that the season doesn't really matter that all to us. We only care about the playoffs. Granted, I know that a lot of players care about winning and having the stats and getting the awards. Uh, Honestly, we don't. Most of us don't really care about any of that. We just want to win in terms of beating Sov, specifically number one, and hopefully winning the championship.
But
But with that being said, yeah, I mean, kind of going back to that, I think a win this season is anybody beating Sov and company.
But you learn how to play better together and you gel as a squad in the games leading up to playoffs, not in playoffs. And that's my issue with Dave right now is if he showed up in playoffs, I think that might be a hindrance to you guys because he has not played. I mean, don't get me wrong, Dave is super talented, so he probably could come in there and play just fine. But if Dave were to get 3 games or so before he goes into playoffs, I think he would do much better with your team in terms of the gelling factor. And for all the midweek SBs that you guys have won against all of these squads, you have yet to do it on a Sunday. And that's the issue is when is Pay Pigs going to come alive on a Sunday? And maybe it is nothing matters till March, so to speak, in terms of playoffs for USL. But you guys are going to have to show that you can do it, and maybe at that time it will be playoffs. I don't want to doubt you too much, but as of right now, it looks like Warhawks and ATW are the better squads to me. But
Well, so let's talk about the just playoffs thing, right? I think if you're Pay Pigs, that's the bad mentality to go with it because if you go with it in that attitude, you're making it harder for yourself to win in the playoffs by taking third seed because it's either going to be us or Warhawks, and probably it's going to be us as that second seed with whatever map and side choice that we have, and we're going to be hard to beat if we have side choice, which we're going to have on you probably, unless you pull off a win versus Warhawks. And I'm rooting for you guys to win versus Warhawks, because if you do, that probably puts my team up into number 1.
Yeah.
So I want you guys to win. Hell, I wanted you guys to win Sunday. I was cheering for you guys because we
Well,
fucked up.
I think even if they do beat Warhawks, I don't think they can get to really, unless we lose to like crap shooters.
I mean, that could happen, you know.
Sure, but
Let's move on to the next one if that's okay. If crapshooters show their best lineup and play a more passive, campy style game, do they have a chance to keep the scores close or even steal this game from ATW? What does Pister have to do to stop his team from trolling and play serious for once? With Bax's assumed departure from the game, who would you pick up to step and fill that void?
So I don't know what the situation was between Bax and Pister Sunday. There I could kind of speculate a little bit, probably because he benched him in a stat pad, when he wasn't doing too well. But that's whatever. If he didn't talk to him beforehand, then that's probably Pister's fault. And be like, hey, look, I'm going to bench the lowest performing player, or how I do it in my team, I ask for volunteers. Right? Who wants to sub at 15? Who doesn't? Whatever. Um, as far as their ideal lineup goes, I don't think you're ever going to get that from crapshooters because of the people that you recruited. Sam is you never count on Sammy. I love the guy, great player, but you never count on him showing up. I mean, he's in Europe, so it's extremely late for him. So, can they win this game? Of course they can. I mean, but they have to play it perfectly.
I think
In order for them, sorry.
no, you're good. Go ahead, Spud.
Yeah, in order for them to win, it would really boil down to leadership, right? I mean, if it's a skill thing, ATW would win. So same with Warhawks. So it would all boil down to leadership, and if Pisser could do that, in my opinion, I don't think he can outlead either Gift or Solve currently. But with that being said, that's the only way that it's possible. If he concocts like the greatest plays and has to cap, right? He would potentially have to cap and win the first battle. If he loses the first battle, it's pretty much over.
Yeah, I've really got no other input other than that. I do think that Bax can. I mean, when Bax is playing well, there's nobody on that roster that's going to replace him. That's extra. I don't think. But the problem is that Bax, he's a Jekyll and Hyde player. He can be the worst part of your team depending on how he's playing. If he comes in and gets an early death or a stupid death, even maybe a couple or three of them, that's devastating. And it's sometimes he just gets sloppy on the too much aggressiveness in him. It needs to be reined back in. I mean, I think frankly, even a Brillheart can give you more consistency than that. But I've said this for a long time. Bax could be one of the best players in this entire league if he just had the brain to stop himself. Maybe he'll get that in 2 weeks.
Are we going to talk about Bax and what happened?
We are. We'll
By the
do it
way?
later.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I got one thing to say though. I think Bags is actually very important for this team, and I don't agree that he's inconsistent. I think he's pretty consistent. You know what he's going to do. It's up to you to play around it. Right? As if you're Pister, you got to be like, okay, well, these are my players. This is how they want to play. Do I adjust my leadership to that? Right?
I wouldn't say he's consistent. I mean, he went 2-2 in 15 minutes versus NYPD, and you'll see some SBs he'll go 3-16 against us, and the next one he'll go like 11-11. So I don't think he's a model of consistency at all.
Yeah, but
I think he might
going
do
through
the
and through
same
the stat
thing. But
pad's nothing. Like that happens to anybody, right?
Sure.
It's a stat pad. Who cares?
But he also
Right.
had like no assist points either, so he just like wasn't in the game.
He's a unique player in that when chaos reigns, he's like Bane, dude. That's his zone. He is absolutely great when things are in chaos. The problem is that against teams like ATW and Warhawks, There is no chaos. There's no chaos to be found. And so that's his struggle is against the upper tier teams. And I think Mecca is he's pointing out exactly right. There's just you just don't know which backs is going to show up week to week. But I totally think he's capable of it. I don't want to sound like I'm ragging on the guy because he's way better than me. He just needs to be, he just needs to go in with some focus and understand that he's got a job, and that job is not to put kills up on the board. It's to help his team win. There's a difference between those two things. So, um, let's see here. As you analyze the current top 10 Marines right now, which player's appearance surprises you the most and whose absence is most striking? Let me give you the top 10 currently: Sabotage, Mecca, The Gift, Rio, Pister, ESO, Shasta McNasta, Kevin, Colossal, and Fairfax.
We're
I
just going
mean,
by like ratings. Is that what that is?
That's
Yeah.
top 10 on USL Zone.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ernie's noticeably absent there, but I think Ernie's taken more of a support, do everything role, played a couple ATs. I think normally, on Deadweight or Hungry Beavers, he's always up there because he was the A killer. But now I think that with Kaga and Soul showing up and Rio being back, that he doesn't need to kill as much, so he can do more of the little things, like the intangibles that somebody has to do on that team that I don't think could do better than him. So I think he's absent there, and then trying to think who else. Yeah, Eric. I think Eric's a little surprising. Eric's had a few pretty average games this year too. I mean, I think it comes down to activity. I think if he got active, if he wanted to, he'd be right there again. But it's just interesting to see people like Eric and Ernie not in the top 10 when they're the two defending deadliest Marines.
The three that I will call out that I'm kind of surprised. I mean, I think Pister's performance this season has been surprising, but I think he absolutely deserves his position on this list. Mecca, we've had this conversation. If you look at the raw numbers, Pister is having the best season of his entire USL career. He is playing very well, so I don't want to take anything away from him on that. The two that I would say probably are the shocking on this list for me are Shasta and Colossal. I don't think either one of them have had a particularly amazing season, or particularly amazing in terms of what I know both of them are capable of. I think Colossal was one of the best Marines in the entire game, and I haven't felt him. He got MVP this weekend, so I don't want to bash him too hard, but I haven't felt him be the Colossal that name inspires. So, those are the three that I'd kind of call out there. In terms of notable absences, Eric is a really good point there. I think Danny would probably belongs on this list. He hasn't played as consistent this season, but he's had a few games where he's been outstanding. And I think he probably should work his way into this list if he just had a maybe one or two games went a little bit differently for him. Also, I think England has been really good this season. If he had more games, maybe he'd be on this list as well.
Yeah, I
So
would say
go ahead.
out of the players that you guys didn't mention, SV, I think we all would have expected him to be in the top 10. But obviously, leading impacts kills quite a lot, as we can see here. But outside of that, the people that I kind of, honestly, a lot of the people I expected are actually rating on top. Sab, I think the reason why his stats are a lot higher is basically because of that last match too. Kind of
Yeah.
pushed his stats to such high level now. But
gamed
with
the
that being
system.
said, yeah, everybody's putting in work that I expected for the most part. And I definitely will have to shout out Pister because he's definitely doing a miraculous job putting out numbers and leading, which is absolutely really
Yeah,
rough to do.
you bring up an interesting point there that the Gift and Pister are both on this list while they're leading and marining for their team, whereas Sav is playing medic, so I guess he makes sense, but Mountain is the most noticeable absence. And I said at the very beginning of the preseason in the preview that Mountain has to be the killer for this team, and that's probably the reason that there aren't some significant wins for you guys against the top tier, which is because Mountain just hasn't been alive in those games.
I do, just to butt in real quick. I do think the difference is Pister and Gift are not the best Marines on their team. You know, Gift has Kaga, Ernie, Soul at times, Rio this season. Pister has Sabo, T, Hop. Hop is another one we haven't mentioned, but Hop's having a really good season too, especially just coming back. And then SV, I think, is probably the best Marine on his team. I mean, you have Split right there too, but Kevin's kind of inconsistent. So I think that's the difference. Is SV is the best Marine on his team in leading, whereas Pister and Gift can rely on Marines who are equal or better than him.
Anybody else on that one, Split? You got anything else, or are you good?
No, I completely agree. SV, I mean, when he's on his game, said it multiple times. He could even be the best brain if he's on his game. And yeah, leading is definitely impacting his kills. He knows that more than anybody else. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
I mean, let me just shout out Fax. You know, he's been a med
Yeah.
for so long. He's doing good this season, man. Keep it up, Fax.
Stepped up, wanted to see how he could do in Marine this season, and has performed very admirably.
He said, "You know what? I'm tired of med and scrubs."
On a team of 16 medics over there. All right. On paper, Nexus seems to have raw talent, but that hasn't translated into the games. What change does Bowen need to make to get his team to be more competitive? Does Nexus have any chance whatsoever of beating either Crapshooters or Pay Pigs in the next 2 weeks? Is Bowen LMG the right choice? Mosh hasn't been effective at all at Ripper, so why isn't he playing LMG or Marine? And should DP even be playing at all when the only thing he's consistent at doing is having less kills than the starting medics?
Oof.
Oof.
Wow.
Question.
Oof. Whoever said that is
That's a
angry.
classic question.
That's brutal. I don't think any of it's necessarily wrong. I don't think I would have said it like that, but I think probably SK should still LMG, or if you want to move Mosh off Ripper, put SK Ripper, and then Bowen LMG. However you want to do that. I don't think Mosh is completely ineffective. I just think with the playstyle that Ripper doesn't work as well. And I've said it for a couple weeks now. I think that Mosh is probably the best Marine. So I think you lose a lot by having him go Ripper, even though Ripper's an OP class right now. And then yeah, DP had a lot of unfortunate deaths there. I don't really know what you do about that. I don't think you should bench him. He's been loyal. I think you just have to kind of work around that. And then as far as them beating people, I just don't think they can. I think the issue is I think Fossil's a good leader, and I've always said that. But I think Fossil's leading as if he was leading, Hungry Beavers or Dead Weight from the past 2 seasons, and not for the skill that he has. And I think that's the biggest issue with the leading right now. It's just not the required leading for people who can't. Like you can't have Fresh hold 1-on-1 versus TG or Ernie. I don't think Fresh is a bad player, but he's not quite on that level to hold a 1-on-1. Or in the past where he had Ernie or myself or TG or Colossal to hold those angles. So I think you got to adjust the game plan to fit your players more than just trying to lead however you've led in the past.
Yeah, and to give you just an insight into the kitchen a little bit, I mean, there's just a problem with listening in general. There's just a problem with not reacting when Fausto is saying the stuff, like he's giving the instructions, and it's taking 4 or 5 seconds for those instructions to be translated into movement. And in a game where seconds matter, that is too long. It's just that simple. I don't want to rag on DP either. I don't know that anybody's going to do very well when you're going. It's constantly 8v6, constantly, because we are losing 2 people off the rip immediately, and nobody's going to survive in that. I mean, if you look at, I think the tail of the tape to a certain degree is look at me and Center in terms of our medding. We die with the team every single time. We have the exact same numbers. It's just we're just getting mowed down, and that has to do with the skill gap. It has to do with not listening. It has to do with maybe a little bit of poor positioning. So maybe Fausto has a little bit of this on him, but I think mostly it's just veteran players need to play like veterans, and we're not doing that right now.
Let me tell you how you fix this. It's real easy. You switch the mouse.
Yep.
You have a lot of keyboarders over there, and they're diehard keyboarders.
Yeah.
DP, you need to switch the mouse. It's straight up. It will change your life, sir. I guarantee you, it changes your whole gameplay.
Yeah.
It really will. It took me from being a below average player. I was fucking bottom of the barrel to now being able to compete and at least hold my own versus anybody in this fucking game. Are they gonna beat me? Yeah, probably. But I'm gonna hold my own.
It's going to take longer, which is
Yeah.
important.
And I'm not giving up bad deaths.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, Yosh and I talked about this on the commentary yesterday. Like, I think if you're a top tier player and you keyboard, stay keyboard. I
Yep.
fully agree. No reason to change. If you're on the bottom or like lower mid tier and you just can't seem to improve after years, switch to mouse, man. It just makes your life so much easier. You'll instantly see yourself play better. It just makes the game so much easier, and I think it's a little silly that people wouldn't switch at this point if you're not a top tier player already.
I mean, Mecca switched 2 weeks before a championship game.
True, and rank 1 in that champ game. There you go.
Yeah,
All the proof you
like-
need.
Yeah, like that's what you need to do. Like, I'm sorry to say this, but mousing is the way this game.
It's the way of the future. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's because then
Like
at least. And here's another thing.
That and Bluetooth headsets on cell phones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and especially if you're mousing, most likely you all have the same reso, which is right around 1920 by whatever. That's what most people are going to be running, unless you're, you can run 2K or whatever. Then you do that. But you know, it allows you to focus fire a lot easier too, because now you all see the same thing, you all have the same vision requirement, and you just point on their forehead.
Yeah.
There's no guesswork.
I will say that when I learned that Champion was keyboarding currently, that blows my damn mind. It really does. There are
Chris
some guys
Manuel.
who are so wildly accurate on keyboard, and I just don't. They're a breed unto themselves.
Yeah, but that's rare.
Does anybody else have any mailbag questions?
Yeah, I got one.
Go for
So, let me pull it up here. So, what are the problems in Nexus, and how do you fix this team that has a bunch of veterans but can't seem to pull it together? Is Fausto part of the problem by being inactive? Is Bowen part of the problem by not leading to his capabilities? Does DP need to be benched?
This is the same guy.
Yeah, it's kind of the same question. Yeah, I think that some of these
Pick a new
things are
squad
being
every week to
addressed.
get trash talked.
Yeah, I mean, we deserve it.
That's
We
the
deserve it.
t-shirt.
We're never living up to the potential that we're capable of, and I think everybody recognizes it, and it does make me sad. But at the same time, like I said earlier, we have benchmarks that we want to meet. We don't expect to win every game. That's not the benchmark. The benchmark is improvement, and right now we've had a little bit of regression, and I'm not pleased with that. And we're going to look to change that on Sunday. All right. Anybody else got a mailbag question that is at least PG-13 or low R? No? Okay. I do have a few announcements. Let me go ahead and start with the big one. The admins have met and decided Bax will be receiving a 1-week ban for conduct detrimental to the league. Both he and his captain have been informed prior to the recording of this podcast. Bax was spamming his private team chat multiple times in public chat, which is behavior that, quote, will not be tolerated by the league. And that quote comes directly from our league administrator, Fausto. So just henceforth, moving forward, I think everybody knew it wasn't acceptable, particularly when you do it intentionally like that. But yeah, that's a bannable offense, particularly to do it more than once. Like the more times you do it, the worse it is. Let's see here.
I don't agree with that though.
Well, if you're already on probation, you should say.
Well,
I don't think a normal person gets banned there, but when you're already on thin ice, I understand.
I mean,
so I don't. I
it's
don't
just a
agree with
huge
it in this
inconvenience. It's just very annoying. And if you have we used to, when there's a bigger population, when you did that back in, pre-free infantry days, you would get a flood of players in there, like 30.
Yeah.
And now that's
And
not
it was
the
a
issue
ban.
now, but it's still like, man, I don't want to have to remake a chat because somebody gave out my chat.
So, I mean, I get you on that, but I don't think banning him for a week is right, because at the end of the day, Pister's the one that recruited him. He knows what kind of individual he is.
You're saying it
and that
harmed the squad that he recruited him to?
hey, I mean, it is what it is. If
It's
you
an
have
interesting
players like that,
argument.
that's why me personally, I don't take certain players because I know they're going to be drama queens, or they do, they just don't fit on what we're trying to do.
There's the lawyer and Yosh coming out. I like it. I like it.
I
So
mean, I'm totally for it, so long as
I,
obviously Pister was in on it.
I mean,
Yeah.
I
In
don't
on
think
back
it's,
game, but
I don't think the league should be trying to dictate what squad captains and players should be doing internally. Right? I don't think this ban is justified. Now,
What
for
a,
some other stuff, I do think that he should have received a ban, but I think this one he probably shouldn't have.
it wasn't internally though. He spammed it in spec chat for
I mean, I
everybody to
get
read
you,
and
but
go.
like that has nothing. I mean, it does have to do with USL, but it didn't impact any matches or anything like that. It was merely just Pister Squad.
I
Didn't
think
have to impact
I
anything
think
else,
Mecca's
which
exactly
Max is
right
a part
though.
of.
If he weren't on probation, it might be different. But
If
he
this were
just
strike
got
one
back.
and not strike 15, and I think too, Fosto agreed to only ban him 2 weeks, kind of on the condition that if he becomes a nuisance, to quote him, that he would face further punishment. He already set the groundwork. It's not like it's out of the blue or it's somebody with a clean record. It's like if you see Draymond Green kicking somebody in the nuts, he's going to get banned for a playoff game. If you see, Jalen Brunson do it, he's going to be fine. I think that's what it comes down to.
I mean, I get you on that, but I don't think this is the blow that needs to happen because they need him this week, and him be banned this week actually sucks for them,
Yeah,
Yeah.
right?
I mean,
He'll
but
get a
that's on
chance
him,
to.
I
right?
think
Like,
I
but
think
let's
this
put
is
who to
altering.
blame.
It's looking like he'll get a
Who to
chance
blame.
to play in playoffs though. So I mean, he'll get his redemption arc.
I mean, that's even if he wants to play in playoffs at that point. Like,
If he
was
doesn't
it a
get sat by Pister, you mean?
yeah? I mean, well, is it a stupid thing for him to do? Yes. Should he have done it? No. Right. But as the league, I don't think we take any justification because it didn't hurt anybody but his own squad.
But
Really,
But
it
I
didn't.
but
kinda
hurting a squad is
the
hurting
thing
the league to a certain degree, is it not? I mean, like
yeah, Bax keeps doing these things though. Like, right. Like the thing is like he just continues to kind of press, and granted this would not be a bannable offense to pretty much anybody in the league,
He
right?
didn't break any rule in this case, though. Most of
No,
the
this
time,
is not a bannable
yeah, exactly.
offense.
Like he
well,
didn't
that's not
break
But
true.
them.
You could get
but
banned
for
from
Bax
SOE in
special
this.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
but this
Bax
ain't
a
SOE.
special case. Bax a special
Still,
case. He kind of like put himself on thin ice,
I
right?
get you and all that, right? But like, he didn't do anything wrong in the rule set this time. Now, if he does some stupid stuff like for the Pister thing last season, where he went back in the rape lines and shot and all that other kinds of stuff, that's
I,
actually breaking the rules.
I
In this
mean,
case, he didn't do
Yosh,
that.
my argument was the 2-week ban was kind of ridiculous before because
Yeah,
that didn't affect the league at all. It was an SB preseason, But the point is that like these things do like it's over and over again, and I get the point. I think everybody's just a little bit frustrated. You
yeah, I
know,
mean, again, I think that's why Fosto included the word if you be a nuisance, then we can revisit your ban. And I think that he was warned beforehand. He knows this is nuisance behavior. It's not like he's been an angel this season. He's been a fucking troll in every SB, every game, on Discord every day. So he's already, on a thin rope anyways. And then he goes and does this, and it's just kind of a final step of an accumulation of just being a shithead all season when he was already warned to not be a shithead. So I just don't feel bad for him at all. Do I feel bad for crap shooters a little bit? I mean, I guess, but like I think they'll be fine without him. So
let
I don't
me let
really
me
think it's that
let
big
me
of a deal.
finish this conversation with reading this. Rule 1.1. Players are encouraged to be respectful with each other. Persistent and excessive conduct issues in game will be handled by infantry staff. Conduct issues on a USL platform, which includes the website and Discord, will be resolved at the discretion of the site/Discord moderators. That's, as I said, Rule 1.1. So let's move on. Announcement number 2. The CTF EOL zone is currently up and ready for testing. If you have any comments, concerns, or general feedback about the zone, MP requests that you please post that in the EOL channel on Infantry Discord. And we've got a growing and thriving CTF community. So I like the chance that we have to help them out any way we can, including just being bodies in there to increase population. And I want to remind her again about the SB embargo that's in effect until 10:30 p.m. Eastern. That is a voluntary agreement between players and admins to help encourage game population growth. And are there any other final comments from the other panelists?
No.
Okay. Well, that will do it for Season 23, Week 6 preview show. You can play Infantry for free right now. Download the game on Steam. Just type in Free Infantry in the search bar or visit freeinfantry.com. If you're interested in a league play, please visit uslzone.com. Sign up on site where you can view roster schedules and the forums. Also, be sure to check out all our available videos on the Infantry Online YouTube page. Built and maintained by military police, feel free to relive the nostalgia anytime you want by going back to watch play from past seasons. I'd like to thank my co-hosts for today. That'd be Mecca, Yosh, and Splittah. Thanks again to our executive producer, Military Police. This has been Romulocks. You've been listening to USL Live Week 6 Preview Show.